The girl in the snow. The wind howled like a wounded beast. Snow fell heavy and fast, covering the mountain path outside Ethan's small wooden chalet. He had been living here alone for almost a year, just him, the cold, and his research equipment. He liked the silence. No people, no noise, no war. It was supposed to be a peaceful night. Ethan was sitting near the fireplace reading an old Earth book when he heard it. A soft sound. A knock. Faint, almost like someone tapping gently. He froze. No one ever came here. The nearest outpost was miles away. The knock came again. This time it was followed by a soft thump, like something collapsing. Ethan grabbed his coat, opened the heavy door, and stepped into the snowstorm. At first, he saw nothing but white. Then, he saw her, a figure curled up near the steps. A woman, not human. Her skin was a soft blue, glowing faintly in the cold. Her hair was silver, frozen stiff with snow. She wore almost nothing, just a thin cloth wrapped around her shoulders. She wasn't moving. Ethan dropped to his knees and touched her. She was ice cold, but alive. Barely. "Hey," he said, shaking her. "Can you hear me?" Her lips moved, but no sound came out. Her eyes fluttered. A single tear rolled down her cheek. Without thinking, Ethan scooped her into his arms. She was light. Too light. She had to be starving. He rushed her inside, kicked the door shut, and carried her to the fire. He laid her gently on the thick rug and wrapped her in every blanket he could find. Then he grabbed the thermal pack and pressed it against her chest. He didn't know if her body worked like a human's, but he had to try. "Stay with me," he whispered. "You're safe now." Minutes passed. She shivered, then coughed. Her eyes opened slightly. They were big and silver like starlight. "Man," she whispered weakly. Ethan nodded. "Yes, human. I'm Ethan. You're going to be okay." She looked around the room, confused. Her hands clutched the blanket tightly. I ran," she said softly. "I didn't mean to come here. Please, don't send me back." Back where? But she closed her eyes, her face twisting with fear. Ethan didn't press her. Instead, he made her a hot drink from the food processor and helped her sip it. She was still trembling, but the color was returning to her face. She tried to sit up, but gasped and held her side. There were bruises on her ribs. Bad ones. Ethan frowned. "Someone hurt you?" She said nothing. He sighed and sat beside her. "Look, I don't know what happened to you, but no one's going to hurt you here. You can stay until you're strong again." Her eyes filled with tears again. She turned away and pulled the blanket tighter. The night passed slowly. Ethan stayed near, keeping the fire strong. Every time the wind shook the windows, she flinched. She didn't sleep much, but by morning she was sitting up, looking around the room with wide eyes. Ethan brought her more warm food. She ate slowly, carefully, as if she wasn't used to real meals. He tried to talk. "What's your name?" he asked. She paused. Then in a small voice she said, "I don't remember." Ethan blinked. "You forgot?" She nodded. They took it from me." That made no sense, but Ethan didn't push. He could see the pain in her eyes. Whoever they were, they had done something terrible. "Well, until you remember," he said gently. "You're safe here. No one comes to this mountain." She looked at him with surprise. "You live alone?" He nodded. "Peace and quiet. I'm a research engineer. I came here for a year of peace." She gave a weak laugh. "Peace is rare. For people like me." Ethan smiled, though he didn't understand everything. She meant, "Well, you found some, at least for now." She looked into the fire, and for a long time neither of them spoke. But something had changed. She was no longer just a stranger freezing in the snow. She was a mystery, a wounded soul, and Ethan knew. His life was no longer going to be quiet. Not anymore. She doesn't know her name. The fire burned quietly, casting a warm glow across the small chalet. Outside, the snow still fell, but softer now, like the mountain was finally resting. Inside, the strange alien woman sat near the flames, wrapped in blankets, holding a hot drink with both hands. Her silver hair had dried. Her skin, once pale and nearly blue from the cold, now glowed faintly. Ethan sat across from her, unsure what to say. He had brought strangers food before. He had fixed broken machines. But this was different. She wasn't just lost. She was scared. Broken, in ways he didn't understand. She looked up at him with wide eyes. "You said your name is Ethan?" He nodded. "Yes." She looked down again. "That's a nice name." Ethan leaned forward. "Do you remember your name now?" She shook her head slowly. "No. Every time I try, it hurts." Her fingers touched her temple, like someone erased it, or like I'm afraid to say it out loud. Ethan frowned. "Who would do that to you?" She whispered, "People who own others." The words hung heavy in the air. Ethan felt a chill, despite the fire. "You mean you were a slave?" She nodded once. Her hands trembled. He didn't ask more. Not yet. She wasn't ready. He could see it in the way her shoulders curled inward and her eyes stayed low, as if waiting for punishment. "You don't have to tell me anything," Ethan said gently. "Not until you're ready." A soft silence settled between them. Then she asked, "What is this place?" "My home. It's an old weather station I turned into a living space. Far from cities. I came here to be alone, just me, my work, in the cold." She tilted her head. "You wanted to be alone?" "After the war, yes, I saw too much. Lost too much. I just wanted silence." Her voice lowered. "Silence can be safe, but also lonely." He looked at her. "Are you lonely?" She hesitated, then nodded. "I think I've been lonely for a long time," she whispered, "even before I escaped, even before I forgot." Ethan reached for a bowl of fruit and handed it to her. "Well, maybe this silence doesn't have to be so lonely anymore." She smiled a little, but it faded quickly. Suddenly, she looked at the door, her body tense. "Did you hear that?" Ethan listened. "Just wind." He shook his head. "Nothing but snow." Her eyes stayed fixed on the door. "They look for me. They always look." Ethan set the bowl down. "Who exactly is they?" She whispered something, in a language he didn't know, sharp, hard sounds like metal scraping stone. Then she translated, "The Tagari Dominion. They took people like me, from villages, from broken places. I was property." Ethan felt his chest tighten. He had heard of the Tagari, rich, cruel beings who used genetic experiments and forced labor to build their empire. But they were supposed to be far from this region. "They won't find you here," he said. "I promise." She didn't answer. She was staring into the fire again, lost. A few hours later, she tried to stand. Her legs wobbled. Ethan caught her. "I need to stretch," she said. "I was locked in a small cage for I don't know how long." He helped her to the small, indoor greenhouse. It was warm, full of strange plants Ethan had collected during his research. She paused there, running her fingers over the glowing leaves. "I don't know these," she whispered. "They're from Earth," Ethan said. "But they adapted well here, like I did." She turned and looked at him. Really looked at him. "You're kind," she said. "Most males in the Empire are not kind. I'm not part of their empire." She gave a small nod. Later, as night came again, Ethan gave her a soft bed made from thick blankets near the fireplace. She lay down slowly, still weak. "Before sleeping," she said, "may I ask one thing?" "Of course. If I don't remember my name, may I choose one?" Ethan smiled. "You can be anyone you want." She thought for a moment. Lyra, she said. It sounds gentle. Lyra, he repeated. It suits you, she smiled, her first real smile. As she closed her eyes, Ethan sat by the window, watching snow fall under the moonlight. Somewhere out there, people were hunting this woman, this Lyra. But he didn't care. She wasn't just a stranger anymore. She was someone who had been hurt, someone lost and alone. And now, she was under his roof. That made her his responsibility, his guest, his fight. The hidden mark days passed. The snow softened and Lyra's body slowly healed. Her strength was still low, but she could walk now, just a little. Ethan built a small path inside the chalet using rugs and heating plates, so her bare feet wouldn't freeze. He never asked her to work. Still, she insisted on helping. Washing dishes, watering the greenhouse plants, stirring soup. These small things made her feel human again, but her nights were filled with screams. Almost every night she cried in her sleep. Ethan would sit near her bed without a word until she woke, gasping and clutching the blankets. One morning, after such a nightmare, she sat at the table holding a cup of tea. Her hands were shaking. Ethan could see it in her eyes. She was hiding something. I can help, he said quietly, but I need to know the truth. Lyra, what are you afraid of? She didn't speak right away. Her fingers moved to her shoulder, pressing gently against the cloth of her borrowed sweater. I'll show you, she whispered. She stood up and turned her back to him. Slowly, she pulled her sweater down from one shoulder, revealing soft blue skin, and then something strange, a mark. It glowed faintly like gold under her skin. A symbol, not a scar, not a tattoo. Something alive reacting to the warmth of the chalet. Ethan stared. He stepped closer. What is that? Lyra's voice was small. It's called a royal control seal. It's put on females born with enhanced DNA. They train us for breeding, for genetic mixing. That's why they never gave me a name. I was never a person to them, just a type 9 breeder. Ethan's stomach twisted. You mean they raised you like an experiment? She nodded. And if they find me, they will take me back. They don't care if I live or die. They just want to make sure I don't escape again. He sat down slowly, rubbing his forehead. I've read about these markings. The Tagari use them to track bodies across systems. It's like a living chain. She looked at him with fear. Is it still active? I don't know. But I'll find out. Ethan worked all night, scanning her mark with his tools. It wasn't easy. The code was ancient, using a biofrequency unfamiliar to most human systems, but he managed to build a reader. The answer made his heart sink. Yes, he said finally. The signal is weak, but it's still alive. Anyone with the right scanner could trace you to this very mountain. Lyra wrapped her arms around herself. Then I have to run again. No, Ethan said quickly. You're not running. Not this time. I'll remove the signal. She blinked. Can you? I don't know, he admitted. But I'll try. For the next 2 days, he studied her mark, trying different tools, low-heat laser, signal blockers, biojamming pads. Every time he got close to success, the seal reacted, sending out a faint pulse like an alarm. They built this thing to stay, Ethan said in frustration. But maybe we can hide it instead. Lyra sat beside him, watching his hands as he worked. Why are you helping me so much? He paused. Because no one should be hunted just for being born. Her voice broke. You don't even know what I really am. I don't care, he said. Whatever they called you, tool, slave, breeder, I see someone brave, someone kind, someone worth saving. For the first time, Lyra cried openly, in front of him. But these tears were different. Not cold, not fearful. These were warm. Human. That night, Ethan attached a custom-built jammer to the skin near her mark. It was disguised as a necklace, A simple crystal pendant, but inside it pulsed a quiet signal-canceling field. It won't erase the mark, he told her, but it will hide you from trackers. As long as you wear this, no one can find you. Lyra touched the pendant. It hummed gently against her chest. It feels like freedom. Ethan smiled. It's not real freedom, but it's a start. Outside, the snow began to melt. Tiny green leaves poked through the frozen ground. The sun rose higher each day, but danger hadn't passed. Ethan knew it. Lyra's past wasn't finished chasing her. The worst part? He had just read a message on the old comlink system, a broadcast sent from a nearby orbiting ship. Beacon signal detected. Retrieval team dispatched. Hostile asset identified as Type 9. Approach with caution. Ethan deleted the message and turned off the console. He didn't tell Lyra. Not yet. He only looked at her from across the room, quiet, beautiful, unknowingly marked for death. And he promised himself, if they come for her, they'll have to get through him first. A bond begins. The snow had stopped falling. The mountains looked calm, like they were holding their breath. But inside the chalet, a storm was growing, quiet and invisible. Lyra didn't know someone was coming for her. Ethan did, but he said nothing. Not yet. She was smiling again, cooking broth in the kitchen, touching the warm walls like they were made of gold. He didn't want to take that away from her, not until he had to. She wore the pendant every day now. The crystal necklace hummed softly, hiding her mark from all scanners. She said it made her feel invisible in a good way. She was finally sleeping better. No more screams in the night. No more shaking hands. She had even started humming. A soft, strange melody from a language he didn't know. It was the sound of healing. Ethan couldn't help but feel something shift inside him when he looked at her. She wasn't just a guest anymore. She had become part of his days, part of his quiet world. And he had never realized how empty it was before she arrived. One evening, as golden sunlight stretched across the snow, Lyra walked to the window and whispered, "This is the first place I've ever felt safe." Ethan glanced up from his notes. "You're safe here." She turned. "But are you? You're risking everything by keeping me." He shrugged. "I didn't choose peace to become a coward." Lyra smiled softly. "You're not like the others." She stepped closer. Her eyes searched his face like she was trying to read something written there. "Why are you alone, Ethan?" He hesitated, then said quietly, "I lost someone. My brother, in the last war. I was a tech engineer on a medical ship. He was on the front lines. I couldn't save him." "I'm sorry," Lyra said. "I left. After that, came here to stop feeling." "And did it work?" "Until you knocked on my door." Their eyes met. For a long moment, there were no words, just a quiet warmth between them, stronger than firelight. Then it happened. A red flash blinked on Ethan's scanner console. Movement, 2 life forms, approaching fast from the East Ridge. Not wildlife, not rescue teams, armored suits, military heat, signatures. Ethan stood quickly and turned off the scanner before Lyra saw. He smiled to hide the tight knot in his stomach. "I'm going outside to check the water pipes," he said calmly. Lyra nodded, not sensing the change. Ethan stepped outside, heart pounding. He ran behind the chalet to the ridge. Using his binoculars, he saw them. 2 tall figures moving through the snow. Their suits were black with glowing red symbols. Tagari Empire soldiers. He cursed under his breath. The jammer had failed for a moment. They had tracked the old beacon signal, and now they were here. He rushed back inside. "Lyra," he said sharply, "we have to leave. Now." She blinked. "What?" "They're here. Soldiers. From the Empire." Her face went pale. "No, not again. I can't. Lyra." He gripped her shoulders gently. "Look at me. I'm not giving you back." "We're leaving through the forest path. There's a hidden cave up north. Supplies are ready, just trust me. She stared at him, breathing hard. Then slowly she nodded. I trust you. They packed fast. Food, cloaks, power cells. As they stepped outside, the sun dipped behind the mountains, casting long shadows across the snow. The cold bit their skin, but they didn't stop. They didn't look back. Hours passed as they moved through the forest, climbing frozen slopes and crossing icy rivers. Lyra stumbled once, but Ethan caught her. You okay? She nodded. Yes. I'm not weak anymore. He smiled. I never thought you were. By the time they reached the cave, night had fully fallen. Inside it was dark but dry. Ethan lit a small lamp. Lyra dropped to the floor, exhausted. We'll rest here tonight, he said. I'll take first watch. But Lyra reached for his hand. Please, she said. Sit with me, just for a while. Ethan sat beside her, their shoulders touching. Outside, snowflakes began to fall again. Inside, two broken souls leaned on each other in the darkness. Neither said it out loud, but both felt it. They weren't alone anymore. She's property of the crown. Morning came quietly, but the danger did not leave. The small cave was cold, but Lyra had slept for the first time without dreams. Ethan hadn't. He sat near the entrance all night, holding a pulse blade and watching the shadows outside. He knew the soldiers weren't far. Their scanners were powerful and they had already come too close once. He didn't want to wait for them again. When Lyra opened her eyes, she found him sharpening the blade. You didn't sleep, she said softly. He looked up and smiled. Didn't. Need to. She reached for her pendant, the one that blocked her marked signal. Is it still working? For now. But they'll keep hunting. It's only a matter of time. Lyra lowered her head. I've brought danger to your peaceful world. Ethan stood and walked over to her. Peace isn't real if you have. To ignore someone suffering right in front of you. Lyra's eyes shimmered. You sound like someone who's lost too much. Maybe I have. But I'm not losing you. Before she could answer, a sharp beep echoed from the small handheld scanner on Ethan's belt. He looked down. They were here. 2 red dots. Close. Too close. He grabbed Lyra's hand. Run! Now! They sprinted out of the cave and into the snow-covered woods. The air was thin and cold, and every breath burned in their chests. Ethan led her down narrow paths only he knew, routes he'd mapped during his first lonely months in the mountains. Then came the shout. A voice, deep and mechanical, echoed through the trees. Target Type 9 detected. She is Crown property. Return the specimen immediately or face consequences. Lyra stumbled, her breath caught in her throat. Don't stop, Ethan shouted. But she froze. Those words, Crown property, were ones she thought she'd never hear again. They shattered her spirit like glass. She fell to her knees. I can't, she whispered. I can't run forever. Ethan turned back, dropped beside her, and cupped her face in his hands. Yes, you can. Because you're not just running anymore. You're fighting. Tears spilled down her cheeks. You don't understand. They don't just want me. They want what's inside me, my blood, my genes. I'm rare. They see me as a tool for future royal generations. I'm not a person to them. I'm just a product. Ethan clenched his fists. Then let's destroy the machine that made you feel that way. Footsteps crunched in the snow behind them. The soldiers had arrived. 2 tall figures in black armor stepped from the trees, plasma rifles raised. Red eyes glowed under their helmets. Step away from the asset, one said. She belongs to the crown. You have no authority here, human. Ethan slowly stood, shielding Lyra with his body. She belongs to no one, he said. Do not resist. I already am. Without warning, Ethan threw a blinding flash bomb. The explosion of light bought them 5 seconds. Just enough. Run, he shouted again. This time, Lyra didn't hesitate. They bolted down the hill as laser shots tore through. Trees around them. Ethan twisted his ankle on a rock but kept going. He wouldn't stop. Not for anything. Ahead was an old mining shaft. A perfect place to hide, if they could make it. More shots rang out. A tree exploded beside them. Ethan shoved Lyra inside the dark shaft and slid in behind her. The soldiers were seconds behind. I have one charge left, he whispered, pulling out a small detonator. If I collapse the tunnel behind us, they won't follow, but we'll be trapped for a while. Lyra grabbed his hand. Do it. He triggered the blast. The earth shook. Dust filled the air as the rocks fell, sealing the tunnel with a deafening crack. Then silence. Total, suffocating silence. Lyra coughed, clinging to him in the dark. Are you okay? I'm fine, he said, wrapping an arm around her. You? I'm shaking, she said, but I'm not afraid. He looked at her. How, why not? Because for the first time in my life, someone stood between me and them. Someone didn't let them take me. Ethan gently pulled her close. And I never will. In the darkness of the mining shaft, they waited, together, bruised but alive. And for the first time, Lyra believed she could be free, not just from her hunters, but from her past. Her secret power awakes. The air inside the collapsed tunnel was thick with dust. It was hard to breathe, and the only light came from Ethan's dim headlamp. Tiny particles floated in the air like ash, making everything look gray and strange. Ethan sat against a cold wall, holding his ribs. He was bleeding. Not badly, but enough to slow him down. Lyra crawled toward him, her hands shaking. You're hurt. I'll be fine, he said, forcing a smile. Rock scraped me on the way down. No, it's more than that. She whispered, her fingers brushing the blood at his side. You're warm, too warm. You have a fever. It's nothing. She frowned. Don't lie to me, you saved me again, now let me save you. Ethan tried to speak, but his lips were dry. His body leaned forward without control. He collapsed. Lyra caught him just before his head hit the stone floor. Ethan, she cried, panic rising in her voice. No, please. She pressed her hands to his chest, trying to wake him, but he didn't move. His face was pale. His breath was shallow. She closed her eyes, and something inside her shifted. It was not pain. It was heat. A burning warmth deep in her chest, like fire rising from her heart to her arms. Her fingertips glowed faintly. Her mark pulsed under the crystal pendant, reacting to her emotions. Her breath caught. She remembered something. A voice from her past. Gentle, female. One day, when you're truly free, your gift will awaken. Lyra placed her hands on Ethan's chest. Her fingers burned, but it didn't hurt. She felt her energy pouring into him. Not just warmth, but something deeper. She saw flashes of his memories, his brother's face, the battlefield, the grief, the silence that followed, the years he spent alone. She cried as she felt his pain. And then, he took a deep breath. Ethan's eyes opened. He blinked in confusion. Lyra? She fell into his arms, crying. You're okay, she whispered. You're alive. He sat up slowly. The pain in his ribs was gone. The fever vanished. He touched her cheek. What did you do? I don't know, she whispered. But I remembered something. A piece of me they tried to erase. I was born with healing light, a royal bloodline. They wanted it for breeding, for control. But it's mine. It's part of me. Ethan stared at her, amazed. You healed me. She nodded. And I feel stronger now, clearer. A distant rumble echoed through the cave. They're blasting through the rocks. Ethan said. We don't have much time. Lyra helped him stand. I'm not running anymore, she said firmly. I'm done hiding. He looked at her. What do you mean? She reached into his supply bag and pulled out the signal booster, a small device used to call nearby ships. I'm calling someone, she said. Who? Someone like me. Someone who escaped. She activated the device. and her voice went calm and strong. To any Type 9 survivor listening, this is Lyra. I have broken free. I remember who I am, and I'm not property. I need help. Coordinates locked. Come if you can. The signal flashed 3 times, then silence. Ethan looked stunned. That was bold, she smiled. I'm not afraid anymore. Moments later, the rocks behind them shook again. A beam of red light cut through the debris. The soldiers were nearly through. Lyra stood tall, glowing faintly. Her hair moved with energy. The air felt different now, charged. Ethan pulled out his weapon. We stand together. No, she said softly. Let me try something first. The rocks exploded as the soldiers broke through. 2 armored Tagari troopers stepped in, weapons raised, but they stopped. They saw her, and they hesitated. She wasn't the broken girl they had once chased. She stood like a flame, burning, bright, alive. I am not your tool, Lyra said, voice loud and clear. I am not your breeding program. I am not your property. I am Lyra. The soldiers raised their weapons. She raised her hand. A golden shockwave burst from her palm, sending energy across the tunnel like a wave of light. It didn't burn. It pushed, hard. The soldiers flew back, smashing into the rock walls. Their suits sparked and failed. Silence. Ethan stared at her. Remind me never to get on your bad side. Lyra laughed, breathless. Then a new sound came. Engines. From above the mountain, a small rebel ship hovered above the ridge. A voice called from the speaker. Lyra, is that really you? She smiled. Yes. I'm here. The door opened. It was time to leave the shadows behind. The warmth of a new home. The rebel ship hovered just above the snowy ridge, its engines humming gently in the cold air. The sun was rising, turning the sky soft orange and pink. The light touched the snow like fire on ice. Lyra stood at the cave entrance, her long silver hair blowing in the wind. Her hands still glowed faintly, the last sparks of her power slowly fading. But she no longer looked like someone hunted or broken. She looked like someone who had found herself. The rebel pilot, an alien woman with blue horns and fire-colored eyes, stepped out from the ship. Lyra, she called. We thought you were dead. I was, Lyra said softly. But someone brought me back. She turned and looked at Ethan. He stood beside her, backpack slung over one shoulder, eyes scanning the trees in case more soldiers came. He looked tired, worn, but unshaken. The pilot approached and hugged Lyra tightly. Do you want to come with us? We have a hidden station. Other survivors like you. You'll be safe. Lyra looked at the ship, then at Ethan. Thank you, she told the pilot. But I've already found my safe place. The woman blinked. You're staying here? Yes. With him. The pilot's eyes moved to Ethan, then back to Lyra. A smile slowly spread across her face. I understand. We'll make sure the area is blacked out from trackers. You won't be found again. Thank you, Lyra said, for coming. As the ship lifted into the sky, Lyra and Ethan watched it disappear into the clouds. The mountains were quiet again, and for the first time the silence didn't feel lonely. Later that day they returned to the chalet. It was still standing. A bit of snow had covered the roof, and some windows had cracked from the cold, but it was still their home, their sanctuary. Inside, the fire had gone out, so Ethan lit it again. He handed Lyra a warm cup of berry tea and sat across from her on the old couch. They didn't speak for a while. They just listened to the quiet crackle of flames. Then Lyra finally said, Do you remember the first thing you said to me? Ethan smiled. I said you were safe now. She nodded. And I believed you, even when I was still afraid. You were never weak, he said. Even when you thought you were. She looked at him carefully, then leaned closer. I don't want to run anymore. I don't want to hide. I want to build something with you. He blinked. Like what? She smiled gently. A real life, a garden, a place where no one is marked or chased or sold. Just peace. He reached out and took her hand. Then let's start now. Over the next weeks, the chalet changed. Ethan rebuilt the greenhouse and Lyra filled it with flowers from both Earth and her homeworld, soft glowing petals, strange sweet fruits. She taught him alien songs. He showed her how to fish in the frozen river. They laughed, they argued, they cooked strange meals together and learned to fix what broke. They were not just surviving, they were living. And slowly, Lyra's nightmares faded. She still wore the pendant, not because she feared being found, but because it reminded her of the moment she was finally seen. One morning, as snowflakes danced outside the window, Lyra stood in the doorway watching the wind. Ethan walked up beside her. "You okay?" he asked. She smiled. "Yes, just thinking." "About what?" She turned to him. "About the day I knocked on your door. I thought I was going to die." He took her hand. "Instead, you lived." She leaned into his shoulder. "And more than that, I was born again." He looked at her with quiet wonder. "Do you ever wish things were different? That you had never been hunted?" She shook her head. "If that hadn't happened, I never would have found you." They stood in silence, wrapped in warmth, while the world outside remained cold. But inside that small wooden home in the mountains, two people, one human, one alien, had built something rare, a bond, a peace, a new beginning. The end.